Thank you once again. So this is the closing plenary and closing ceremony. When I get tired, I go back to Spanish. So bear with me. I'm in good hands. Has Erica Gonzalez arrived? Oh, she's gone. Oh, that's right. She's fine. Is Professor Helen Fraser here? Is Helen here? All right. All right. We can start. We're going to start by watching a video, the greeting from Minister Giles. So whenever you want.
I thank the AUSIT National President, Angelo, Berbotto, and the National Council for the kind invitation to address you at the closing of the 36th AUSIT National Conference. I wish I could have been in person, but I would like to say how deeply you value my discovery. Language is something we often take for granted. Most of us begin learning as toddlers, and we build our skills from there. These skills expanded further during our school in our exposure to print, broadcast, social media, movies, and more. Language doesn't stand still, it's always evolving. But imagine moving to a new country where the language was unfamiliar and everyday tasks became a huge barrier. That's where you come in. If I talk specifically in terms of new migrants, and you're often the lifeline to those seeking to establish new lives for themselves. You're the key helping them unlock access to everything they need. In Australia, we do everything we can to be a welcoming nation to the successive waves of migrants who have so strongly contributed to the success and prosperity of our diverse multicultural nation. August this year marks the 50th anniversary of the birth of contemporary multicultural Australia, which began with the release of the 1973 report, A Multicultural Society for the Future. I can proudly say we were the first country in the world to establish a permanent instituted accredited authority in 1977 with the creation of the National Accrediting Authority for Translators and Interpreters. I should mention a few other relevant anniversaries and some milestones that we are also enjoying this year. HIS National was established in 1947, originally as a translating service, and this year is marking 50 years of providing telephone interpreting services. From just 21,545 calls in the first year, HIS National handled more than 1.25 million calls in the last year in some 150 languages. The Adult Migrant English Program is celebrating 75 years, aimed at providing free English language lessons to more than 2 million people in more than 300 locations across Australia, as well as online. In June this year, we launched our Multicultural Framework Review, a generational assessment of policy settings and institutional arrangements. For the first time, submissions were invited in any language, with more than 650 received, and more than 120 of those were in languages other than English. The results of that review will be known next March. I'll come back to the framework later. These are all fantastic milestones and achievements, and we have much to celebrate in the multicultural space. But with all these successes come responsibilities. Australia has a rich cultural and linguistic diversity. According to the 2021 census, 29% of Australian residents were born overseas. Australian residents speak more than 300 languages. Almost 740,000 people over 5 years self-reported limited English proficiency in that census. The number is tracking upward with an increase of about 65,000 further people reporting limited English proficiency since the previous 2016 census. That means your services have now become more important. That need was particularly heightened during the pandemic. I know many of you in this room worked tirelessly throughout that crisis to keep people safe. It was literally a matter of life or death. The pandemic also provided an opportunity for many translators and interpreters to deliver and implement new ways of working in service delivery. Many worked remotely or delivered cultural and critical information around pandemic risks, rules, safety measures and programs to remote communities including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. This is one of the occasions, ironically, when words cannot do your work justice. But I say honestly and sincerely, thank you. I'm aware that there are always things we can learn and things that we can work on doing better, and that we must work together and collaborate on new solutions. I know there are challenges undermining the language services sector, including around pay and conditions, the fragmented nature of our procurement settings, the perceived lack of support for capacity building initiatives, and the absence of quality assurance mechanisms. Added to that, there's probably not sufficient community and business awareness around the importance of quality translating and interpreting, and how these sectors can engage a suitable service. I'm pleased to note that the Department of Home Affairs has been proactively and extensively engaged with the language service providers, peak bodies, state and territory governments, and community groups. This consultation has begun to unpack many issues impacting the sector through the recently established Action Forum that has been called for a strategy to address the loss of interpreter skills and experience to other forms of work or retirement. One of the terms of reference to the Multicultural Framework Review relates directly to the vital role played by translators and interpreters. The panel will consider how the federal government can more strategically communicate and engage multicultural Australia, including in languages other than English. The findings, expected to be released in March, will help us ensure the sustainability of the sector. Earlier this month, I got together with my fellow state and territory ministers in Darwin at the Ministerial Forum on Multicultural Affairs. We all heard from the review panel on their progress. There was strong endorsement from all ministers of the need to better address the challenges undermining our interpreter sector, and we'll be working collaboratively on them in conjunction with the Multicultural Framework Review. Occasions like the AUSIT National Conference serve as a rallying point, an opportunity for the sector to come together on common ground, for people to share their experience, raise issues and consider solutions, to recharge their batteries and to prepare to renew their commitments. I'm pleased my department was able to sponsor this event. I trust the sessions that played a part in, such as the Industry Sustainability Roundtable, were of interest and mutual benefit. I look forward to connecting up with department officials for a fulsome readout and the complex outcomes. People are at the centre of what you do. Along the way, you become integral parts of the stories of their new lives in Australia. And that's your legacy. That's why you're as important, and what you do is so important. For all your tireless dedication, once again, thank you. And remember, we value your feedback and hearing from you. Feel free to share your ideas with us as to how we can co-design even better translation and interpreter services in line with what you also want from your careers. We all need to work together to get the best outcomes for everyone. Thank you.
We are very grateful to Minister Giles for the message, and we are very grateful for the support that we have received from the Department of Home Affairs. And this is a conference that has had participants, attendees, who are not interpreters and translators, but who are civil servants, the people in policy who are here. Perhaps they're a bit quiet because they want to mingle and, and they're learning how this profession works. I'm going to tell you in a moment, I have the clicker here. So I'm going to tell you in a moment what we're going to do. First, I want to invite some colleagues, and I know this is by surprise because I just got the idea when I saw these chairs. I didn't know. So I'm going to call, we have to get some bums on the chairs now, sorry. Can I ask Professor Hale, Professor Ludmilla Stern, Sylvia Martinez, Camille Lapierre. Is Professor Helen Fraser here? This is Angelo's panel to close this. Rebecca Paredes Nieto, Rosario Lázaro, Vesna Dragoya. No, I think we are. So what we are going to do, we are producing a document with the reflections from this conference. And it is called the conference statement. Before I go into that, I want to take 1 minute to say congratulations to the interpreting students who have been interpreting from one of the theaters. The interpreting suite is in another building, and this conference provided a practice, live, close to live experience. And I want to thank Rebecca Paredes Nieto for organizing this, and also Camille Lapierre. One of our colleagues, Iman Shenada, had an accident in this venue yesterday. She fell. I have been in touch with her. She's recovering. She's well, and she sends her best wishes. And she was very grateful that we're thinking about her, and we are indeed. I am very happy because in this conference, we had the Thompsons. Where are you, Paul? Can you stand up? Oh, here they are. You both need to stand up because unique team. I don't know if you got married after you met in the Defense Forces. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you, but this is the first time that officially we have the Defense Forces linguists formally represented. I know that you were here last year, well, in Brisbane, but the editors of Yarning, which is the magazine for linguists that worked in the Defense Forces. We also had the immense privilege of having the Australian Signals Directorate. There is a lot of potential for linguists to work for the Defense Forces. And I really very happy that this may be a partnership that we hopefully will develop in the future. So you're very welcome to be here, and we're delighted. After this session, I will I'll ask you now to provide your feedback through the app. There is an opportunity for you to give us feedback so that we can improve for next year's conference. I also ask you now to use your app in order to interact with us during this session, because this conference statement is a collective piece of work. But if we give you the mic to talk about it, we'll be here until tomorrow and you'll miss your flight. So the way to do it is with the app. If you have issues with the app, raise your hand and our volunteers will come and help you to find it. In the app, you'll be able to interact with us. And the reason why I have asked my colleagues to be here is because you may have questions about some of the things we're going to put on the screen. If you have a comment, please use the app. The questions and the mic is only for questions if there's something that is not clear. If you want to make a statement, it's not on the mic. I will take your mic away because this is the rules. I'm stating the rules now so that it is clear. We want your comments, but these comments you need to write them down so that we can consider them and improve this document. Some months ago, Professor Hale planted this idea in my head. And having a conference statement, a statement that gathers the main points of the conference. And when I was thinking about what to put in there, I got inspired by something that I did by accident. Some months ago, Sylvia Martinez called me very worried about the experience of some interpreters in some courts in New South Wales. And I thought, okay, it's time to write to the legal profession in general. I'm sorry if you don't practice in legal settings, and I am annoying you because this is I'm pushing this forward. But you know, in the coming years, there will be a president who will have a different agenda, like health settings, because that's what they know, and you get your time. So, but this is the world I come from. I am a solicitor. I can't escape it, and that's where I think, because I know a little bit of both worlds, where I can help. So I wrote a letter to the Australian legal community, telling them these are the problems that are still happening, and I thought, okay, this is going to be filed away, but actually we are starting to receive answers. And you, if you were here yesterday at the round table, yesterday, you heard the Honourable Justice Francois Kuntz and the Deputy Chief Magistrate Tsavaradidis, who wasn't as enthusiastic as Justice Kuntz, but still, they recognize the issues, and they are becoming allies of our profession. And, well, Victoria, the Chief Justice of Victoria, wrote to me, responding to my letter, and hopefully we'll have more responses. So I thought, okay, perhaps for the conference statement we can do something similar to the letter that I did for the legal fraternity, but concise and like a shopping list. This is what needs to change. So this is what I'm going to present now, and these are the areas in which we want your feedback. And the way for us to gather your feedback is by you using your fingers, your app, and typing whatever you want us to have and to consider to improve this. And the response of the Chief Justice of Victoria is quite lengthy, and I don't have the ability to send you the letter because I haven't been authorized. This is a letter addressed to me, but what I'll do is I will not forward the letter, but I will put the information of the letter in my communication to you, so you will know.
Are you a lawyer? Yes.
So there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I didn't read that letter.
You need to use the mic because this is being recorded for future generations.
I read that letter, and it's a really good response.
Thank you, Sylvia. So the reason my colleagues are sitting here is because you may have questions where their answers will be clearer and more to the point that where I can elaborate. All right, so the first part of this conference statement is a preamble, and here is where we state the reasons for issuing this statement. The objective is that from the learning, discussion, and debating we have done, we want concrete actions, and we communicate them clearly and concisely to the relevant stakeholders. So this first part is the preamble. So if you have any suggestions as to how to improve this preamble, please type it in the app. It says, the Australian Institute of Interpreters and Translators and all the translating and interpreting practitioners gather in Sydney at the 36th AUSIT National Conference. Sorry? The volunteers is coming to help you. Reaffirming the essential role that translating and interpreting play in contemporary multicultural Australia. Committing to working competently and ethically to enable communication between speakers of different languages and the wider Australian community. Desiring to ensure working conditions capable of attracting and retaining competent practitioners in the profession. Committing to working, inspired by the presentations, discussions, and debates held during the 36th National Conference, acknowledging that the quality of translating and interpreting services is the responsibility of multiple stakeholders, and considering that the AUSIT National Conference has provided a meeting place for many such stakeholders, issues this conference statement and calls on relevant institutions, practitioners and partners to commit to the following. So all that is the preamble. It sets up the background to what comes next. What comes next is the shopping list, is the things we want action on. So if you think we've missed something out, you can use the app to let us know so we can collect all that information. If you have a question because there's something that is not clear, that is when we bring the mic to you. But we'll hit you on the hand if you make a statement, because that is not the intention. All right. Anybody here wants to talk to the preamble? No? Okay. All right, thank you. So the first issue is industry sustainability. So what we're asking is to commit to the following: to pay translating and interpreting practitioners rates for the work that are commensurate with intellectual skill, length of training, and role as communication professionals. To ensure, any questions about that? To ensure, in the case of federal, state, and territory governments as the largest buyers of translating and interpreting services, that working conditions and rates are not reduced to win tenders in government procurement processes. Any questions about that? Any, yes?
Full support.
Thank you. Yes. Well, but the table has a special permission to work towards adequate remuneration to attract and retain the next generation of competent practitioners. To ensure that proper resources are made available for the education and training of future translators and interpreters. Any questions about that? Okay. So that working conditions. To encourage, so the sustainability is more general, working conditions is more specific. To encourage working conditions that are conducive to ensuring quality interpreting and translating services. Any questions about that? To ensure interpreters with higher qualifications are offered assignments first. Yes, can we need one of the ushers to help us with the mic, please. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so unless I misread something, the working conditions are still applicable to all practitioners, but I can see B and probably somewhere else, it's just about interpreters. Why interpreters with higher qualifications? Why not practitioners?
That's a very good observation.
Yeah, I think it's more later.
Yes.
I picked that one.
Thank you very much. Yes, Heather.
Angelo, this will come as no surprise to you, because I've said it before to you. The principle of higher qualifications first may be an AUSIT platform, it's not an industry platform. We have heard multiple speakers talk about the need to match practitioners to jobs. That does not necessarily mean the highest qualified practitioner. We have also heard multiple presenters talk about the need for opportunities to be created to bring people of lesser competence to higher levels of competence through their management in the workplace. So this point is conducive to neither of those things. And I couldn't support it.
The context is if I need an interpreter in Spanish and there is somebody who is a certified provisional interpreter and somebody who is a specialist legal interpreter, and I am in court, the person with the specialist certification should be offered the work first, because I as a consumer, let's think about the end user, I'm going to be better served by somebody who has demonstrated through examination that they have the contextual knowledge, the legal culture knowledge, and are being tested in the modes of interpreting that are required in that context. So I would be grateful for any comments you want to make on this. As I said, this is a working draft. Is there anybody from the table who wants to elaborate? Yeah.
So I think Evelyn's point on practitioner rather than interpreter for point B is essential, and perhaps a further improvement to that point B is making some reference, and I'm not exactly sure of the wording now, but some concise reference to commensurate with the complexity of the assignment. And something that I want to highlight here, and Heather, I think that this is a point of agreement with us, is that although there are many of us that consider within the public space that NAATI absolutely is a demonstration of standard, when we're talking about qualifications, that doesn't just mean NAATI certification. It means qualifications. No, and neither am I. But in case you were, then that's a clarification, I guess, that I want to make. But I think good point in that you've raised about the need to, obviously, to get experience, we need experience, which means that there always has to be a first time for us to do work, whatever that work is. Where the language availability, where the interpreting and translator availability applies, your first experience shouldn't be the most complex experience if there is already a well-qualified colleague who can guarantee the quality required, better qualified colleague who can guarantee the quality required in that complex setting. But maybe that's the two things. Yes. It's practitioners and it is making a reference to the complexity.
Yes, and
matching the interpreter or matching the translator to the job. You look at the requirements of the job and you look at the most appropriate practitioner for that, and that will not necessarily mean the most qualified.
What we'll take your representations on this subject and we'll consider them. This is a working draft. This is not a final version. And that's why it's so important that you interact with us through the use of the app so that we can have all the material in written form. I think it's Carl first, and then over there, Blossom, and then Ludmila. Remember, these are questions because if it's a statement, it has to be done on the app. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. Yes, Carl.
Thank you, Angelo. I just had a question about, is there any mention of the high stake and high risk involved in the community setting, for example, in court interpreting and in healthcare? Would that affect pay, for example, because we have a high level of responsibility?
So far, I don't think we have made that explicit, but that is a very good point. Next.
Hi, I just wanted to go back to the point about qualifications. Would it not make more sense to go back to basics with the AUSIT Code of Ethics and to point towards having adequate competence rather than adequate qualifications?
Yes, but anybody at the table wants to talk about that issue? Competence, if I'm talking from the point of view of I have a client in court and I need an interpreter for my client, I don't have the ability of testing an interpreter to measure competence. So I'm going to go by the qualifications that interpreter has. And that goes to that point. So I am not, this statement, this paragraph doesn't intend to leave anybody out. The intention is to motivate people who want to work in an area to gain further qualifications to serve better the people who need it. That's the only purpose of it. So, but if you have other ideas to express that in a more clear way, please help us. Absolutely. Yeah, that's very good. Do you want to add something about that? Microphone? Yes. Microphone, because it's being recorded, and we don't want people, it's very annoying at home, people trying to watch the recording and they cannot hear.
Yes, I understand your desire to do the qualification part, but be aware that we have seen examples where people who were qualified but got their NATI in their 1980s, when the exams were much simpler and nowhere near as good as a CPI of today.
Yes.
And secondly, we have seen people over the years, unfortunately, lose the ability due to age, due to mental illness and other factors. And we have had interpreters going around who are fully qualified but no longer fit to practice and still practicing.
Yes.
So you've got to be a bit careful and leave a little loophole there.
Yes, those are very good points. And also, if you have ideas as to how to convey that, that is very valuable. I'm going to continue. Yes?
Can I just say, I think one of the problems is, now, I think we all here agree that we want extremely high standards, the highest standards, but we need to also understand that we don't all have equal access to the training, to access to services, to universities in this country. So I think that we do need to be careful, and my experience working in regional rural areas as well has shown, I will qualify this, I'm a very, very, very big supporter of training, education and standards. But I have also had the privilege of knowing and working with people who have got the competencies but not the qualifications, and who are some of the most brilliant interpreters, and I'm proud to call them colleagues in the country. So I think we do need to be careful.
That's right. Yeah. And remember that this document is very ambitious, that it wants to speak to many stakeholders in many different situations. So we have to read it in an extensive way. And also, I acknowledge the reality of a practitioner in Turkish, Tier A language, is very different to the practice of somebody in Yoruba, Tier C language. So let's continue, because otherwise we're going to run out of time.
If I may, just to build on what Vesna just said on the matter of access and equity, not sure if it's coming later, a section on education, but to highlight the importance to keep creating more opportunities for training in lesser diffuse languages, or however we want to call them,
absolutely.
To be able to achieve that ideal situation where people have the best competence, experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. What?
So also, I think we have to add something about mentoring. So mentoring from the more qualified experience to the ones who are coming up, and that will do the capacity building that we need. Yeah.
I hope you will put that in the app, Professor Hay. To promote the use of in-person and video conference interpreting over telephone interpreting. Any questions about that? To ensure, in the case of language service providers, that appropriate background information is provided to interpreters at the point of booking their services. Let's avoid the word brief, please. Let's avoid the word brief. Brief is a word that is very loaded in the legal language already. By using it with a different meaning, we are confusing the lawyers, and they're going defense, and then the communication breaks down. If you say background information, it's much simpler. And we'll avoid, Cynthia, where are you? We'll avoid confrontations between interpreters and magistrates.
Just say, I mean, if you ask a lawyer, may I please be briefed on what is happening in the matter today? There is no confusion there. Everybody understands what you mean. I don't think that point about brief. I mean, if you ask for a brief or for the brief, that's different. I think we all need to be aware of the terminology that we are using, and there's no need to confuse things, but we also need to be aware that we need to use what we need to use.
The simpler, let's go for simple language.
Exactly.
Let's not.
I agree with background information, that's important, but also there is a terminology, briefing and debriefing, and that's important too. And if they ask you, what do you mean by you want to be briefed? We can explain, and then we want to be debriefed too for the reasons that we need to be debriefed.
Yeah.
But also, they also confuse the word interpret.
Yes.
And we're not going to stop using interpret, right? Because the lawyers don't understand it. We explain what we mean by interpreter.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to educate them as well.
Absolutely, but we have to be aware of potential misunderstandings, and that's a word that can trip you. Very good. To require more accountability on the part of lawyers, healthcare staff, and administrative staff for not implementing the relevant protocols and guidelines on working with translators and interpreters. And this goes to the fact that too much is dumped on translators and interpreters, and the rest, they say it's not their problem. Any questions about that? Evelyn?
Just a quick one about point D. Again, I'd like practitioner instead of interpreters.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. That's a very good.
And on E, why is it in the negative? Why not more accountability for implementing?
Yeah, very good point. Is somebody making a note of this? Because, you've seen that I cannot multitask. Oh, that's right. Thank you. D. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. That's very valuable. We go to F. For leaders in the judiciary, government, hospitals, healthcare providers, police forces, emergency services, educational organizations and businesses to become champions in their organizations of best practice in working with translators and interpreters. And remember that we're going to send these to all stakeholders. We'll do what is it called? Spam campaign. All right, the third point, any questions about that? No. Interpreting in courts and tribunals. To ensure that all judicial offices in Australia, together with registry and court tribunal staff, are aware of and implement recommended national standards for working with interpreters in courts and tribunals. Any questions about that? Thank you. To incorporate, in the case of Australian law societies and bar associations, as part of the standard yearly offering of CPD, training on working effectively with interpreters in courts and tribunals. Any questions about that? To develop, in the case of Australian law schools, content in their courses that train the lawyers of tomorrow in working with interpreters. Any questions about that? Yes? Yeah, remember that this part is interpreted in courts and tribunals. In accordance with AUSIT's 2017 endorsement of the Linguistics Call to Action, to continue working with the Australian Linguistics Society and the Research Hub for Language in Forensic Evidence to ensure that forensic audio featuring languages other than English is handled appropriately by the courts. Any questions about that? Four, interpreting in health settings. To provide, in the case of hospitals and surgeries, information to patients about access to interpreters. B, to implement, in the case of healthcare workers, the guide for clinicians working with interpreters in healthcare settings, and to be aware of the best practice guide for New South Wales health staff developing health resources for people from refugee backgrounds. And the reason why we have the New South Wales publication is because it's recognized as good standard. You may have it in your state or something equivalent or not. Any questions about that? C, to create, in the case of hospitals, in-house interpreter positions for high-demand languages. Any questions about that? Community yes. Yes, there's a question over there. Ineke? The mic is coming to you.
Thanks. Just a question on the word or term in-house interpreters. Do you mean employed by the hospitals or standby interpreters? So interpreters that are employed and supported by services to be interpreters at particular hours in the hospital?
I think perhaps somebody at the table wants to answer. I don't think we have used in-house to describe the employment relationship, but more like the location. But if somebody wants to specify, talk to this?
I think that we're using terminology across the states. So I know that in Victoria, they use the term in-house interpreter. Our interpreters here in New South Wales, we are lucky enough to have permanently employed staff interpreters. So they're staff interpreters, not in-house. And I'd say that this is what you mean by this, but it's just the terms, I think, that differ. So whether you want to call them, I'd say maybe permanently employed.
Yeah, okay. We have what we call standby interpreters in hospitals employed by the organisation, the interpreting organisation, who are contracted to provide services from particular hours, which doesn't limit them to calling us after hours, but for the main reason is for the support. A lot of the time in the debriefing with interpreters, sometimes it's about the actual hospital staff, and you can't actually get that decent debriefing in-house as such.
Well,
and therefore retain the pool, retain the interpreter.
So the ideas about that, if you want to write it down, may enrich the final version, because what we recognize here is that high demand languages, interpreters in those languages, there is a justification for them being employed if they're being called all the time. And if you have interpreters attached to the service, those services we have heard from in this conference, for example, in the case of New South Wales, work very well. So, yeah, any ideas as to put them in the app so that we can consider them. 1 second, please. The mic is coming. The mic is coming.
After I've used it.
Yes.
Hi, Ineke here. You had those excellent points about briefing, background information, and also teaching lawyers, legal staff, judges about how to work with interpreters. May I say the same should apply to people working in hospitals, because it makes our job so difficult when they don't know what our role is and they keep saying, ask her if and tell her if, and asking us to do all sorts of things that are not part of our role boundaries. So you had those excellent points. So if they could be also copied into the interpreting and health settings section, that would be excellent.
Thank you, Ineke, for that. A microphone here to this colleague, please. As you may remember, at the beginning of the conference, I mentioned that I wrote to the Royal College of General Physicians, and unfortunately I didn't get an answer, and the same with the Nurses and Midwives Association. We'll insist for next year. Yes?
I would like to suggest that in-house to say on-site, for example. That can be, because on-site basically being there in the local hospital, if you like.
Thank you.
So that's one. And instead of surgeries in A, I would prefer that we say health facilities, because we also have community health centers, for example.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you. Any other questions about this? Can we continue? So C. Oh no, I finished in C. Community translation. To adopt, in the case of language service providers, the protocols for community translation developed by AUSIT. I think we developed by AUSIT with the assistance of FECA, right? Or together. Any questions about point 5A? No. To require from government staff involved in writing copy for translation that they receive training on intercultural communication and intercultural literacy.
How about we just train them in English? Mostly public, a lot of public service these days can't manage that.
Is this a, yes, Cynthia?
I think they should follow the Australian government style guide manual because we have seen some horror stories coming from government written texts in English.
Yeah.
So it's plain English and applying health literacy principles.
Yeah. Yeah, what we need is those people who write this type of documents to have in mind, they need training for that.
Yeah, no, but they just need to write plain English.
Sorry, do you want the microphone?
Thank you. Point C, can I continue? Point C, to use AI and machine translation with caution in community settings, and to ensure that human, NATI credentialed, either certified or recognized translators revise and undertake quality control of the draft before translated materials are disseminated to the wider public. Any questions? Thank you. Point D, to adopt a co-design approach by involving the community or end users in the design. I think Assistant Professor Erica Gonzalez was talking to this point earlier. Any questions about that? E, to take into account for dissemination of messages the level of literacy and particular needs of the target audience, so that the most appropriate and effective mode of delivery, oral or written form, video or audio, interactive posters, is used. Any questions about that? Finally, for commissioning organizations to establish realistic deadlines and budgets for community translation projects. Any questions about that? We will review the feedback we are providing through the app. If you prefer to send feedback the traditional way, please write to me, that's my email, before 5 p.m. on the 2nd of December. Why? Because we want to send this on the week starting on the 4th of December. Because many people know that we're here, and this document, as ambitious as it is, and with your input, it will be richer, clearer, better, will be a statement and a yardstick by which we can measure the advances we make next year. And I'm hopeful that we make advances. Now, I hand it over to New South Wales Branch Chair, Camille Lapierre.
Sorry, I'll just come around. Okay, so here it is. Oh, here.
I will have more.
You have them. So while you're doing that, I have the pleasure of addressing this crowd again. You've seen me at the beginning, you're seeing me at the end. So I've been in the background, but I have heard a lot from all of you about your feedback on the conference, on the presentations, and we really appreciate it because there's been a lot of hard work going on. And before we go into the official thanking, we have the WordFast raffle. So you've all received tickets, whether at the AGM this morning or when you came through the door today. And so WordFast is a translation memory, so therefore it's a tool for translators. So if you're an interpreter, and your ticket gets picked out, you have the choice to perhaps pick your favorite translator and hand to them. This is what I did. And so now we're going to pick the ticket number. And the rule is, so you have to be here. So if we pick a ticket and there is no one, then we'll pick another one until we find a winner. So, I don't know, do you want me to do it then?
Yes, why not?
All right.
And the winner is...
All right, we have U30. Do we have anyone U30?
Not in the room, next one.
Not in the room. All right, I'm not seeing anyone. All right, pick number 2.
In Spanish, it's al agua.
All right, here we go. A44. Do we have anyone for A44? Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. We will take your name at the end. Let me check. Yeah. I'm going to verify it. And then at the end, you come and see us and we'll write your name. Is that... I'm not a notary public, but I'm a solicitor, so it's close enough. Close enough.
Here we
Very
go.
good.
Perfect. All right, so please come see us at the end, and then we will be able to organize that. So congratulations.
Sorry, Camille, can I
Go ahead. Sorry.
say something? At one of the sessions, one of the last sessions, the room agreed that for next year we should have 2 prizes for the raffle. One, this one, if that continues, and another one for interpreters, the remote interpreting portable, the portable simultaneous interpreting equipment, because that would be a great
I would
prize.
love to win that one. No, because it's true. In the past conferences, we've always had translator raffles, but I'm an interpreter only. I'm always missing out, so that's a great initiative.
We need to find that sponsor then.
I know. Here we go.
Coming to you.
Can I suggest a third lucky draw prize? A weekend retreat.
Oh, that sounds great. I think we all need that right now.
Healthcare interpreting service. Hello.
Thank you very much. I think, food for thought for the Victoria Branch Committee, who is going to be the organising committee for next year. Okay, so now we're going to the really great part, which is the thanking. So I have the honour of going and thanking all of our wonderful volunteers, all the people that have made this event possible, and in my opinion, a resounding success. So first of all, for the Abstract Review Committee. So as you know, we've had a wealth of wonderful presentations, up to 8 parallel sessions at times, which was a lot of content. And therefore, that means that we've actually received a lot of wonderful abstracts and they had to be reviewed. So I have put the names over here and I'm going to call people to stand up if I call their names. So first we have Angelo Berbotto, Susan Gandhi, Leah Gerber, Marion Gervais, Jim Havlak, Miranda Lai.
Camille.
I'm not going to call myself. Rosario Lazaro, Silvia Martinez, Louis Nangajima, Riza Shariflu, Kenny Wang, Rita Wilson, and we have our wonderful lead reviewer and lead on the program, Sandra Hale. Next, we have our conference volunteers, the people that you have seen for the last 2.5 days, going away, ushering away, chairing away at the different sessions. So first of all, our chairs. So we have Abigail Peter, Alissa Tien, Amy Wang, Angelo Berbotto, Anthony Lee, Catherine Papamata, Cynthia Lee, David Deck, Diane Lightfoot, Dorothy Prentice, Elvira Quintana, Fatih Caracas, Jim Harvak, Jorge Savaret, and we have another long list on the left. Karine Bachelier, Linda Danun, Ludmila Stern, Magdalena Rowan, Nancy Guevara, Rebecca Paredes Nieto, Rima Naja, Roxanne Lashin, Rosario Lazaro Igoa, Said Hoslavi, Sandra Hale, Sylvia Martinez, Uldis Ozolins, Vesna, and I'm sorry, I will butcher your name if I start to pronounce it, Vesna Dragoye and Evelyn Pile. So again, thank you very much to all our wonderful chairs. And I am making a point of trying to name each and every one of you because you've done such a great work. And I believe that just putting your name on the slide is not proper recognition. So apologies for the butchering, but I hope that at least everyone can see all the wonderful work that they've done. Now our ushers, so the people with the wonderful blue sash that you've seen going around into the different rooms. So we have Chen Wang, Rebecca Paredes Nieto, Rosario Lazaro Igoa, Shiva, sorry, maybe I will go with first names, that might be a bit faster. Sylvia, Sophia, Susan, Veronica, Vesna, Sujan. We have Andrew, Karina, Catherine, Echo, Emma, Imong, Fatih, Hania, Gemma, Johnny, Karine, Louis, Marta, Nancy, and Naomi. Thank you very much for stepping up. Then we have the rest of our conference volunteers, because apart from chairs and ushers who during all of the sessions, there were a lot of people working behind the scenes at the different places like the registration desk, the AUSIT info booth. We also had the speaker liaisons who were there to ensure that the speakers were there, present and ready. So we have Nancy, Marcia, Louis, Hania, Imong, Majda, who created our conference logo. And we have Shiva, Juliana, Rosario, Joanna, Ying, and Riza Shariflu. So thank you very much for your hard work. And finally, I want to call on two particular people who have been, I believe, the core of the preparation of this conference. First of all, we've heard in the AGM, but our national president, Angelo Berbotto, has been, I believe, one of the really key components to making this conference possible. And as we said, tireless hours, endless days, weeks, at any hours of the day or night to prepare, to reach out, to make sure that things were happening. So I'd like a big applause for Angelo Berbotto. Thank you very much, Angelo.
Extended to Piesek.
Sorry?
Extended to Piesek,
Oh, yeah, my
the
dog.
beautiful little dog who keeps him company.
Yeah.
True. And the second big face of this conference, you have seen her around in the rooms, out of the rooms, Sylvia Martinez. She has been doing a tremendous job as well on the budgeting, on the program, on making sure things were actually happening. Because oftentimes, and that's something I want to say from my personal perspective, but we are all interpreters, translators, practitioners, or working with within this profession, and we don't really know how to work together to organize a conference. I mean, this is not our job. We often work solo, individually, in our own assignments. So when you start putting all of us together to actually start organizing such a large event, we often don't really know how to communicate effectively, how to work effectively for this kind of work. So this is why I think, we need people to start leading these sorts of things. And Angelo, Sylvia, we would not be here with all of these people today without both of you. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then, of course, a conference would not happen without the conference participants. So thank you very much to all of you for being present. We had over 500 registrations from what I've seen on the app, which is the biggest conference, at least that I know of. So far. We're hoping perhaps bigger in the future. But conference participants, and I can see that I had made an edit to that slide, but there was also obviously all of our presenters. Because again, without great presentations, without great submissions, we would not be able to have the quality of the conference that we've had for the last 2.5 days. So again, thank you very much to all of you and to all our wonderful presenters. And I think perhaps last but not least, you have seen them going around, you have perhaps interacted with them, but Aus Party events have been the professional conference organisers that have been engaged for the first time for the organisation of the AUSIT National Conference. This is something that we requested and I think was absolutely essential, especially when we start looking at events of this scale. So again, thank you so much to our event organisers, Alana Brettle and Caitlin Johnson, who helped make this conference a success. I don't see them in the room, but we will probably see them downstairs. So again, thank you. Oh, they've gone, yeah. But no, Caitlin?
But to another event.
Well, they're very busy people. All right, so with all of this thinking done, I would like to announce that obviously the 37th AUSIT National Conference is moving. It's not staying in Sydney, but is going to Victoria in the beautiful city of Melbourne. And I am here delighted to announce that we will have in a short moment Karine, who will come to say a few words before we end. I think that, since everyone is already at the front, this is what Angelo has called the core group, or the core group of volunteers, the WhatsApp group. This is what we call the exec group, the core people, because eventually we have lots of volunteers, but it's extremely hard to organize with 20, 30 people to actually get things done. So eventually we moved in different ways with the organization, but I think that way has worked quite well with having a core group of people that you have seen around in major roles, ushering, chairing, helping with registrations, helping you out as well with different things. So again, thank you to the core group. Yes, Cynthia. Sorry, I will go. Yeah, you're not there. How come?
She was called.
I called you.
I was downstairs talking to our people.
Oh, but
talking about life. But please come and join the front.
I'm showing that.
Exactly. But yeah, many of us, perhaps you haven't seen necessarily in front of the room, but you have seen us downstairs behind the scenes helping out in the different booths. So again, I think that with this being said, I would like to invite Karine to say a few words in order to pass the baton, or the bell in this case, for the next national conference.
Merci, Camille.
So thank you for this great responsibility. I feel highly accountable when I see the size of that bell on the table. You'll have to let me know how I have to manage if I bring it with me to Melbourne in a few days. Well, thank you again, Team New South Wales, for an amazing event. I think you've superseded all of the previous editions, and it will be very hard to beat. So thank you once again.
Can we click the next?
Once again, we've had the privilege of being able to exchange, being able to network in person again after all that we've been through over the past few years. And it's been great to keep updated on the latest trends and research in our industry. Oh my gosh, he wants to stress me now. No pressure, Angelo. But before I get to that stage, and I promise I won't be long, yes, let's not forget that we need to present a united front still, because there's still a lot to do to improve our industry, to improve the way we work. And for that, we need to have everyone on board. So that means we, as the Victorian Branch Committee, are waiting for all of you next year to come to our beautiful city of Melbourne. So see you in 2024 with the bell.
You get to ring the bell now. We're going to start a new tradition.
A new tradition.
Yes, so you get to ring the bell for the last time until it rings again in Melbourne.
Very well. It's like the Olympic flame.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And with that, Angelo, would you like to say a few closing words?
Travel back home safely. We'll get the videos to you in due course. Thank you for your feedback. We'll get that statement out. And if you want to join our AUSIT committee, we'll take you with open arms. If you have ideas to develop, come and we'll create a committee for you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you.